we rise to the top. Can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Round Table here with Ben. As we're trying to get some episodes out there.
Yeah. It's like thunder, man, just coming in hot.
Yeah. What's going on, man?
A lot.
I know.
Life's great. That's
So,
good.
question for you. We've been talking subjects for the last couple minutes. What do you do? Because I know you do something along these lines, but as far as like reflections go, do you ever sit down? I mean, we had a challenge for you to sit down and like even in a dark room or something, if I remember right. I challenged you to that. I don't know if you've done it yet.
I did.
What reflections? Well, you don't have to be specific reflections. Wow, that's a hard fucking word. No, you don't have to relate if there's anything you don't want to talk about. But what was that a good time? Was that good reflections for you on your life? What's going on? Do you like doing reflections? Do you ever journal your reflections? What you've come up with?
Reflection. So, yes and no. We do them. Do I like doing them? Yes and no.
They suck sometimes.
Yeah. I think it can be, it's that double-edged sword, right? You can have positive and negative reflections. I think sometimes when you reflect on some of the things that you're going through or some of the things that you've done or haven't done, those things can be difficult to face. I think they can be a kind of a slap in the face or a realization of the progression that you're not doing. As far as like reflections with positivity, I think it's great. I think one of the things that you can do is, that we do is, we'll sit there and journal. We do journal our, reflections of certain things that happen in our life or certain events and trying to capture that feeling or that mindset that I was in that moment. And I think those things help me rationalize or get a different perspective when I'm going through a similar situation or a different mindset that I'm kind of running through a negative path. It's interesting because we had a meeting or whatever last week, and I'll be very brief on this story, but because I don't want somebody else's story that I'm essentially kind of taking away, but I did write it down as a reflection. So long story short, there's a speaker starts talking about, opens up about, the things that this guy's doing for his family, how he's stepping up, building his business, doing all these different things. And then towards the end of his story, he's like, did he fall through with his commitments? And everyone's like, yeah. And then he's like, well, he actually passed away 2 weeks ago. And it totally like, what?
Damn.
And I wrote that reflection in my notes because it goes back to showing you the importance of how short life is. And in that moment, my reflection was just one, do what you said you would do, which we've talked about in other episodes. But two is like, life's too short to really care about anything other than what you have in front of you and your family or the goals that you have. And it was a lot more impactful. I mean, long story short, it was just that. It was the reflection of like, Ben, get the mindset of like, get everything else out. Like really nothing, when you truly break down the meaning of life, there's a love and, relationships and all these different things. But these things that we make in our minds, that we make them look like mountains, they're really insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Like they don't really have a large purpose or a large effect in our day-to-day life. And it brought me back to like the Krista thing and like how life is short. And I have a lot of those, like, unfortunately, like those dark or those sad moments in life for me are the things that help me move forward because they bring a perspective in my life of like, life is short. Mm-hmm. Make the times that you have with people great. Leave people better than when you met them. And actually wrote, a little note to myself, and let me see if I can find it real quick. But to me, it's super impactful. It was, it's right here. So, oh, no, that's not it.
It's amazing how like we talked about this is like the journal of our life now. Because that's what I was doing a minute ago, is I was going through some of my reflections that I'd had. I mean, I haven't done it in like a week, but that's just one of the things that I was thinking about.
No, it's great. So it's super quick, and I'm actually gonna get some bands made from it, but it's gonna say had a vision, made a decision, and then do it anyway. And the do it anyway is more of like people are going to tell you that you can't do it anyway. People are going to tell you that you're dumb, do it anyway. People are going to tell you that you're not, good enough, do it anyway. People are going to tell you that it's a stupid decision, do it anyway. People are going to say you're going to fail, do it anyway. I think those things to me push me forward, and I think sometimes in those times of weakness or those times of, for me, it's always the negative that I take reflections and I'll write down like, oh, I'm having this negative feeling, I'm at this negative emotion. Then I take those things and try to reflect on them of why I was in this mindset.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause.
Yep.
Interrupt you here for a second. Do you ever? So mine have been more positive, and we'll get into my story in a minute. But, well, not all of them. But do you reflect when you reflect on those negative emotions? Do you write that down on top of, or I guess on top of, underneath what that negative emotion was? Like, do you ever reflect back and you're like, okay, I'm having this negative feeling, blah, blah, blah. We'll say towards a coworker. I'm having this negative feeling towards this coworker. This is why, da, 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 da. Do you ever come back or at that same moment be like, okay, why the reason I'm having this is because of this, this, and this, but I can change this for this, this, and this.
I can't say that I've wrote it down,
But you've at least thought about it.
But I definitely think of those things. I think I'm a lot more aware of those negative things that I say, and I try to correct them and try to think through. It's that whole blame part, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this way because take it a step back. Why are you feeling this way? Why am I thinking of this person this way? Why am I having these thoughts? And then reflecting on those things to make myself understand this is why I'm doing it. Is it an insecurity? Is it a fear? Is it a jealousy? Is it an ego? For me, it's those. It's either ego based or it's an insecurity based judgment or reflection. If I'm having a negative condensation or thought of somebody else, and those things creep in all the time. Like I said, I mean, I think it's just important to understand like why I'm feeling this way or why I'm thinking it, and then reframing it to understand to apply it to myself. Because at the end of the day, if you're you're judging somebody, if you're feeling these things, right? You take those things internally and say, okay, why am I doing it? And then you fix yourself. You get better at those things down the road. You can understand yourself, why you think that way. And I think also too, it allows you to, sometimes you can say something that can come across as like you're being an asshole, or you're being a jerk. And I think for me, it's important to think these things through so that I can apologize, or I can take things, not necessarily take it back, but like, you know what? That's not necessarily what I meant. I apologize for the way it came across. What I actually meant was this, and I've said that.
I've had to do that more times than I can count lately. And it is not, I'm not proud of it because I did it literally today before you came. I did it, had a whole situation. We talked about that. And as I'm talking to this person dealing with this situation, I'm hearing myself and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, and I could tell because I have been known, and I hate being known that way, to be an aggressive person on the phone. And sometimes in person, I can be very aggressive about things. And I'm like, hold up. I'm sitting here listening to myself, and I'm like, whoa, hold on. And this is the second time in like a month that I'm like, whoa. And I told the person on the phone, I'm like, look, I am sorry if I came across mean. That was not my intention. You did nothing wrong. I appreciate your help, and I'm sorry if it came off that way. And just right there, the person was sweet the whole time. And they're like, nope, you're good. I understand. It's very frustrating. It's a bad situation. I completely get it. Thank you. But no, you're perfectly fine. The last one didn't go quite as well. It did in the end, but guys, this is like a mindset that you have to work on constantly. This has been the last like 2 years, and the last 6 months has been more and more, and the last month has been even more in depth in how I'm dealing with all of this. I mean, hell, right before the last one was right before we went to Moab, and I think I told you about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, instantly I felt bad, but I didn't deal with it then, but I knew what I had to do. And I apologized on the phone, but I wasn't as direct as I should have been with my apology. And I knew instantly that when it was all said and done, that because I was going to see that person next week, I'm like, well, I know what I got to do. And I apologized to that person. I apologized to her manager, the owner of the business. I'm like, look, this was my bad. I apologize. Like I was out of line. Like that was literally the next thing that was coming out of my mouth before you said, let's go talk, was I was going to say, I don't know if it was you, but I sincerely apologize for how I acted. It was not right of me, you know, and it's that reflection of everything where you're reflecting back on what you're doing and what you're saying.
Yeah, and reflections in the positive sense are good too. You know, if you did something good and you can write it down and say like, "Oh, I'm proud of myself," or you know, even the apologizing part, that's something positive that came out of something that was negative, because you can look at the situation and look at the reflection of like, "Wow, I've actually grown."
Yeah.
'Cause maybe
Yeah.
5 years ago or whatever, however long, I wouldn't have done that. That's a reflection in itself, to look at yourself and say like, I've actually grown. I've actually, you know, evolved into something different, that somebody's willing to take accountability and look inwardly before I start, you know, passing judgment or passing an emotion outside of myself. I actually look internally to see if this is something that I can actually deal with. I think that's very big for somebody to do that, because we've talked about this. It's easy to just blame you. If I yell at you and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Da 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 da, and you're like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy?" But then I come back with, you know what, you know, that's my mistake, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna respect me a lot more that
Oh,
way than
yeah.
if we just left the room and like, oh, we didn't talk about it, whatever. I know he's pissed, or he's dealing with still doesn't give me the right to be a certain way to you, but it shows a lot more character, a lot more integrity if I come to you and be like, "Hey, man, I made a mistake. Like that was totally off base. I shouldn't have done that. I own up to it, and I hope you can, accept my apology." That reflection of you going home, you saying, "Hey, man, I appreciate that." I can reflect driving home, be like, "Hey, like,
Why did I do
why
that?"
did I do that?"
Yep.
But I'm glad that he accepted my apology. I'm like, the situation turned out better next time. You use these things to be a better communicator, a better person, better leader, whatever it might be, to progress forward in life, and use those reflections in your life to really grow yourself. I mean, you had that, like you said, you would come down here and you would either play your guitar or you would sit in the dark. I mean, what reflections were you getting out of that? Because that when you're in your own mind, reflections should just be running and racing through your head.
So those were interesting. I think we talked about what I had done. I mean, I haven't been as active with doing some of those things, but
You're not
I'm
perfect.
still, oh, fuck, I know. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, this whole thing, like, even on my background, guys, it says breathe, relax, think of the positives before reacting, be proactive, not reactive. And then it says, I love you. And of course, most people will think that's to my wife, because there's a picture of my wife on there, which granted, yes, it is. But at the end of the day, that's telling myself that I still love myself. Like when I was writing it out, that's what it was meaning to me. And then, I went in and I added follow through is the key to winning. Because if I'm not following through with anything, whether it's a small thing or a big thing, that's just causing me to lose. So reflections. So that's kind of where it was coming, was all of this. And, even over the last month or two, that's where a lot of this started, was I'm just like, okay, going through this and just thinking about what's going on in my life, my kids' lives, my wife's life, our marriage, work, everything, just trying to reflect on it and say, okay, I can understand this, I can understand that, why is this happening? And reflecting, coming back to what, like you said, it all comes back to like an insecurity, a jealousy, or an ego issue most of the time, and one of those three or all three are flaring up at the same time, and you have to figure out why. And again, rage is another one that's really big for me.
Yeah.
And that, again, like I just explained on that conversation, like I was upset. like, okay, at first I thought, it's this whole big ordeal, but it turned out everybody that I've talked to has been nice. It's confused. I don't understand how the hell they did it, but that's a whole different ball game right now.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, this person's just doing their job. They're just trying to help me. This person's doing their job. They're trying to help me. Same thing. I mean, all these people, like, even now I like look at people like freaking out, and I'm like, God, I was such a bitch back then. Like, wow, that was me. I know that was me. And that's, again, like we're talking, that's a reflection. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that anymore. So I'm just curious. Like I said, I haven't written down as much lately, but I'm constantly thinking of what's going on, and I've switched more to like journaling versus like I was doing like bullet points, like notes, like this is what I'm thinking, but it's been in my journaling that I've done it. And I'll share this story because I've been struggling like we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I actually just barely told my wife this the other day. I've had a lot of suicidal thoughts lately.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. Like, and at one point, and I swear I have it written down somewhere, but I'm like, man, I don't talk to my parents that much. I don't talk to my brothers. I don't really have a whole lot of friends. Sometimes it feels like life would be easier for my wife and my kids if I wasn't here. And then I kind of stopped, and I was like, wait a minute. I mean, even though I don't talk to my parents all that much, they still need their son. God forbid something, they need me, And needs a loose word. Like, they just, I'm here. Worst come to worst, if I absolutely had to, they know that I'm there. Same thing with my brothers. They still need me. And then work still needs me. I'm replaceable in every scenario, don't get me wrong, but I'm also a very needed person in that I do a lot for that company, and they know it. And they try to do what they can. My friends need me.
Yep.
You guys here.
Yep.
My other buddy. I know there's not a lot of people he talks to, and he confides in me with a lot of stuff. And it ultimately came down to my in-laws. Your father-in-law and mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law. I'm the son-in-law that goes and does a lot of stuff for them, helps them out. Hell, she came over this morning for me to look at her car and give her my honest opinion on what she needed and get hers taken care of. And ultimately, no matter anything, my wife still needs me. She needs me to show up for her. She needs me to show up for myself. She needs me to show up for those kids. Those kids need their father. And then it all hit me very hard. I'm like, wow, all right. These thoughts, they're thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they are. That's all I'm going to allow them to be. And then even today, I even reflected even deeper into that. I'm like, you know what? When I'm at my worst, those are when those come in. It all comes back to me wanting to escape me. Why am I trying to run from me? I haven't even told my wife this part.
Yeah.
This literally happened like today. I was like, why am I running from me? I'm showing up for myself, so why am I trying to run away from me and my problems? Why don't I deal with my problems? Whatever fucking happens in life is bound to happen in life. But I need to face that problem. Running away is just going to continue to get fucking worse.
Yeah.
So that's been my biggest reflection, and that was kind of where this was all going, was to show you guys that, hey, one, I'm human. I fucking struggle.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot. But you need to show up and use those reflections to sit back and really say, whoa, that's why. That's why. Because at that point, and I can say this, at that point that anybody might be thinking of taking their own life, you're not thinking about everybody that it's going to affect. As much as it seems very selfish, it is not. You're hurting so many people. I don't care if you feel like you have absolutely nobody in your life. There are so many people that still count on you. So many people that still want you in their life. take the time and reflect and figure out why you're feeling that way. Reach out. If you have a buddy that's struggling, reach out. Just say, hey, sometimes that's all you fucking need. Sometimes all I need is just that message from my buddy. Yo, I hit the gym. It was a great day. That can start a conversation. Or, I reached out to him and I said, I just want to say how proud of you I am for how you are. The way you can show up with everything you've told me, dude, that's fucking amazing. I am proud of you. I just need you to know that. And I know that right there means more to him than anything. Just like it meant that much to me to say that to him. Our current weekly phone calls, same thing. Like, it's something to look forward to. Like, just to say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Damn, man, that's deep. That's deep, and I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I think you hit it on the nail there. It's just knowing that it's not just you, and you always have somebody around you, and there's always people that are dependent on you.
Yep.
And that comes with the sense of leadership. That comes with the sense of you should take that with pride, and like you said, your wife, your kids, your friends, your family, and it's kind of what we talked about before, right? The day you don't show up.
Yep.
That's the day that you could have let somebody down.
Yep.
So keep showing up. Keep showing up for yourself. Show up for your family, and you always will have a friend here, a brother that'll stand beside you no matter what you go through, no matter if we got to sit there together and fucking grind it out, and
yep.
that's just the way it is, and that's just I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for the work that you do, the work that you've done, and will continue to do. And
I appreciate it.
I know that. I don't know, but I can imagine the things that go on and the things that happen and that run through your mind. And I think it takes a strong and a hell of a person to face those things and be vulnerable with them. And like you said, run through the fucking storm.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I would go to war with anybody that would do that. And
I appreciate it.
You're worth it, man. And just don't you ever fucking quit on yourself. Don't you ever quit on the people that you got around you, because you're gonna impact millions of fucking people. And I could say that with 100% confidence, whether it be through this, whether it be through something else. And people need to understand, see this side of it, that there is always another fucking side of the coin.
Yep.
And
there is, and I'll say this because I had therapy on Wednesday, and it was one of the harder ones. And I looked at her after I told her kind of the same story, and I looked at her and I said, I just want you to know that I didn't want to tell you this. Same with my wife. I don't want her to worry, but I'm like, I didn't want to tell you this. And she's like, well, I'm glad you did, because you need that out there. And I was like, I debated on telling you because I didn't want you to be like, well, you need to get back on medication. And she's like, I don't think that's right for you. I'm like, good, because I wouldn't have done it. But I'll leave you the closing thing I have to say, and it's a quote from Shia LaBeouf in his interview. He's like, it'll all be okay in the end, and if it's not the end. Plain and simple.
Yeah,
it's not the end, guys. The end is when you die, and it'll all be all right. It'll all be all right in the end, and if it's not the end.
I love that. Cool, man. I appreciate that.
Guys, the challenge, this is pretty obvious, but just take some time to reflect. Use your damn notes tab, guys. You got a fucking notes in your phone. Use it.
Yeah. You can click the record button it'll record your voice too. So if you don't want to type it, fucking record yourself a memo.
Hell, download yourself the memo app. I mean, I'm on iPhone, but download the voice memos. There's been a few times this week that's how I've been reflecting, is recording something. I'll leave the gym, pop my headphones in, make sure it's recording, and my 7-8 minute drive from the gym to work, I'm talking to myself. And I mean, nobody's probably ever going to hear any of this that I say in there. Who knows? Maybe I'll release it all one day, but it's there, And part of the reason I leave all this stuff there and I don't just delete it God forbid something happens to me, my wife can go back through all of this. Whether I'm injured, I'm hurt, I'm dead, whatever, she wants to understand my life. It's right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I will gladly hand this to her. Some of the stuff might piss her off. Some of it might make her cry. But at the end of the day, it's so she can understand what the hell is going on in my mind.
I love that.
So that's the reason I try not to delete anything out of there. So, guys, reflect. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
letting
man.
me share that story.
Thanks.
Hopefully that impacts somebody. So,
It will. Love you, man.
love you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
The Round Table Podcast, where we talk to our personal growth, struggles, and journey.